Welcome everyone, Dr. Thor here, and get ready for Gnosis. I'm going to expand upon subtle energy physics, something I have a doctorate in, and to explain how all these mysterious energies, at least to common scientists, really form and everything else. I've talked about Occultons and Psions and how this makes up the world in a very simple fashion. Now, I can complicate the issue, which I'm going to, like scientists like to do, so they have self-importance. But as I discussed in that, and I highly recommend you go over and listen to that particular lecture, so you have the basis of it. Now, with that understanding that occultons are these vibrational subatomic energy levels, their frequencies basically, they are materialistic in nature while they are very difficult to measure, like anything past Newtonian stupidity is. To think the world is made up of chemicals only and these certain laws are the only thing on this planet has defined things for 500 years to a degree, taking us out of complete ignorance and foolish superstitions. The problem is it never has answered the question. And there is the big debate between Niels Bohr, the Danish scientist, and Albert Einstein about the nature and reality of life and quantum physics. So this isn't new. I don't know if people think quantum physics is new or not. It ain't. The big debate was with Einstein and Niels Bohr. And we've all heard the quote that without hearing the response from Niels Bohr, that Einstein says, God doesn't roll dice with the universe. And of course, whatever that means, he believes in God, I have a problem with. I generally like Einstein. He was an interesting dude. But a lot of things he said were totally off base. Well, Niels Bohr's response was, don't tell God what to do. Good one, Neil. So the whole idea is that's right. How does Einstein know what God does if we want to get into that ridiculous thing, and that there is a certainty using old mathematical principles to what he believes in? Well, the point is that Niels Bohr's theory of quantum physics and how it works was proved time and time again, has been now proved by so many people in modern times that it is no longer in any way a theory. It is now as close to a fact as you can get. So everyone now understands, and all technology now is based on it. All we can say is that if it was based on it many, many years ago, 50, 60 years ago, and this debate went on, or even past that, maybe 100 years ago, we would have been much further. But understanding the quantum nature, the entanglement of everything, is very important to advanced technologies. And we're making quantum computers. We have to move massive amounts of information. We can't do that through circuits or other things. We have to use photonic energies and so forth. All these quantum computers work by lasers, and you put information in a light beam, and that is then moved on instead of trying to go through some sort of physical chip or circuitry. And that is very important to the study of subtle energy physics as it relates to the bigger consciousness radionic machine understanding. So, as these, everything starts out as these occultons, which is the essence of everything. You could call this the God particle, the real God particle, not the poo that was left over from the experiments that is done at the collider. But the essence, where does that come from? So the whole idea is that's what the universe is made out of. It's made out of subtle energy, subatomic frequencies. These are super, super minute. They're just vibrations. It's hard to classify these things as physical in nature. They really aren't, but it does exist. One of the understanding is quantum physics means the tiniest of tiniest, but measurable energies. That's what quantum means. So people like to use the term quantum to think, ooh, it's special. Well, no, it means tiny, the tiniest of tiny. So this was used correctly, and of all places, the James Bond movie, a Quantum of Solace, meaning had the tiniest of all tiniest remorse. I believe this had to do with the death of his wife or whatever it was at the particular movie. I don't quite remember that. But the Quantum of Solace that's what it means, the tiniest of tiniest. So I don't know how many people understand that, but you should. So, but people like that word. It means techie. So the whole idea is you start with the occulton. Now, as these things start to physicalize and as things build in energies interacting with the psions, which of course humans interact, but psions are any outside energy of an informational nature from any type of energy source, and this starts to create things. Okay? So these condense into different matter form. Now there are numerous occulton that form into other energetic fields that now become different names, formatrons, and many others. I mean, we can go to a long list like science does of how these has become more physical. They get this particular name. And of course, we will list these in certain books and other things that I'll be coming out with, because these are the energies you start using, and there's different types of occultons that form into other atons, so to speak, energetic informational fields that then form certain matter. Certain matter is formed by into energetic fields that surround people, things as nebulous as a success energy field, a positive energy field, a negative energy field, a sickness energy field. These are all the things that people have around them that increase their success or problems in life. People who are successful have this particularly energetic success field around them. They attract right people. Everything goes right for them. We know how that is when we say things like, man, he's hot when he has luck. Well, that's because that energetic field has been stimulated and is working strong around that person. Now, we're working on creating these fields, so there isn't an up and down problem with someone's luck or energetic field. They're always empowered. And of course, this is the key to success in any life. People who everybody likes. Once you meet somebody, you just like them, and there's nothing about them, or you see this particularly with actors, that you just kind of like this guy, and there's other people you don't like, because they have a certain energy field that then an occulton energy field that bounces against your energy field, intermixed with their psions and your psions, and it creates an energetic feeling, a feeling that is good, bad, or indifferent. This is when people are attracted to each other. They have their energy fields commingle, and they start to combine into one giant field, which engulfs both of them. That's called attraction. So, but there's an attraction to money. There's attraction to anything out there, good, bad, or indifferent. This also is the same kind of field that works with illnesses. So, if your energetic fields combine with a negative field, which is caused by many different variations from thinking to toxins, what happens is the negative occultine energetic field enters your body and starts ripping apart a particular organ or problem, causing some sort of disease, generating cancer, etc., which means the negative occulton field has overcome the positive psion fields and occulton fields that you are creating. And this is how illness happens. Now, all of this, when understood at this very level of occulton, which is energetic informational fields, it's just the density of them changes, and there is names for each density. But this is what makes up the entire universe. So when these fields, informational energetic fields are created out there for whatever reason, anything can be created from them. The possibilities are literally endless. And people should understand that word endless that is used too much. I mean, there is no end to it. And you have to think how infinite that really is. So they can create other planets. They can create light energies from space. They can create all that we find in space comes from this original occulton energy field, and their density then turns into these particular physical matter. But there is even more there is 100 times more non-dense energy. Well, that's good. Let's change that. There's probably at least 1,000 times more non-dense energy occultons than there is dense energy occultons that create matter. Because all these energetic fields out there are creating all the time. And then to do that, it means there has to be massive amounts of them to create all the different, what we consider physical energy manifestations out there. And there are levels of physical energy. Photons are a type of physical energy. They can be measured. And they can be used. We know this is a physical energy. There are many that we have not been able to measure properly because we haven't built the technology to do it. We certainly could if we wanted to. Neutrinos are a famous and interesting energetic field, which can be measured. The effects they have and how they, and this is just some of the ones that we have discovered. And people are researching these things and trying to find them and all the things that go with that, which is quite fascinating. But that's how subtle energy physics works. Now, when you understand this, then you can start building consciousness and energy-based machines to use occulton energies. These are called radionic type machines. I call them subtle energy machines, consciousness-based machines, because your consciousness controls occultons and intermixes with them to again create some sort of informational energetic field. Now, this can be a slight field, this can be a strong field, this can go to the fact that it starts to create physical matter, that you can also disembowel, is that the correct term? But you can take physical matter and rip it apart. So once you understand that you're working with energetic fields, there's no reason why you can't take a solid informational energetic field, because it had to come from this non-solid occulton to build this steel, let's say a steel beam. Well, once you get the actual energetic field signature of that, which you do with radionic consciousness machines, you then can deconstruct those fields and turn it back into an occulton field entirely, meaning that you could then, that physical structure will break down to different levels depending on what you're trying to do, or to a point where it just bursts into a energetic informational field into itself and you see nothing. What you could say is it just disappears. It's turned back to its energetic informational field reality unto itself. That would be the ultimate. And of course, these are some of the technologies that people do when they're doing things like teleportation. And they have been able to teleport light beams to some extent. So the whole idea is that you can take photonic energies and move them around to a great extent. So this was done in, I believe, IBM research labs who are doing some research into the teleportation reality. So this is all exciting, but you need to understand the subtle energy physics of it. And I will be detailing this further and explaining it and how it interacts with actual consciousness technologies and radionic machines as we go on here. Those are the energies you're using. You have to learn to grab them, manifest them, and they work with your consciousness. Real technology is involving using your consciousness involved with these occulton energies. Now, the problem is that a human being's consciousness, while is quite amazing and boggling at certain levels, is also some of the most depraved and evil garbage there is out there. So when you start adding human consciousness into anything, you really have to be at a particular level of understanding. That's why we offer so many additional training. If you're not balanced, if you're not centered, and you haven't developed levels of, opened up the channels that bring empowerment within your consciousness and your mind and even your physical brain passageways, if you haven't opened these up, well, you're not going to produce very good results. So there's a combination of basic, what could be called levels of consciousness working from your higher self, so you're doing everything right and understanding it, and activating these particular centers within your consciousness. This is not easy. The fact is that there's a big difference between wisdom and intellectual thought. Intellectual thought that comes from education and going through brainwashing of colleges and being taught specific laws that really are not laws whatsoever to conform, destroys your ability to go ahead in these areas and to work with them. Also, being a delusional person that lives in some sort of spiritual fantasy is also counterproductive. You have to be on the course of gnosis. You have to be thinking of and trying to reach the state of gnosis, meaning you know truth. You have obtained wisdom, not intellectual thought, which you get from certificates in colleges. So it's a very complicated thing, and of course it comes down to what happens through the human consciousness, and frankly, the human consciousness is really a bucket of dung. It has no value. It's a greedy, sick, perverse culture steeped in materialism and sexuality that has done nothing but destroy the planet they on. The further weakness of this consciousness who bows to any evil source doesn't bode well for what the future will be. That's why so many people who have discovered some level of this through different technologies have all done poorly and who have been persecuted as well. And, of course, certainly society does nothing to support these people. If anything, they help in their destruction by empowering criminal, governmental, police, and military structures. The corruption level is so high in society today that nothing of value will ever come out. And it's up to the individual to somehow rise above all this through the use of consciousness technologies to change their own life and hopefully affect the world as well. Until next time.